Very good evening to my lecturer, Miss Afina, and my dear fellow friends. Before we move into the topic, I would like to introduce my group members, Joyana Karbemala, Sri Meena Loshani, Amrita Raj, Shakuntala, Shangita, and finally, I am Davsuda Kalimuthu. As for today's topic, we are going to compare and contrast the education and language policy of Singapore with Indonesia and Malaysia. Singapore is a racially and linguistically diverse city-state with four official languages, which are English, Mandarin Chinese, Malay, and Tamil. During British colonial rule, a variety of schools taught exclusively in one of the four languages. After World War II, schools were gradually brought under the government control and they recognized that a lingua franca was needed to facilitate communication among the different racial and dialect groups. Due to the status of English as a world language and the desire of Singaporeans to retain their cultures, the government encourages Singaporeans to be fluent in both English and their mother tongue. The bilingual education policy was officially introduced in 1966, and in its early stages, English could be taught as either the first language or the second language. However, schools teaching English as a second language saw a rapid decline in enrollment, and many closed down or switched to teaching English as the first language. This resulted in the mother tongue being taught only as an academic subject. Thus, all the other lessons and activities conducted beyond the classroom are conducted in English with the exception of moral education and mother tongue. This is unlike the typical bilingual education models where academic content is taught in two languages.
Hi, a very good morning everyone. I am Sri Meena Loshani over here, and today I would like to talk and explain about the differences and similarities between the education and language policies of Singapore with Malaysia. So, the education and language policy of Singapore is known as bilingual education policy. Under the policy, English, one of the four official languages, is taught as the first language. It is also main medium of instruction in schools. In contrast, Malaysia has pursued a rather different approach. The government's policies have been a mixture of transitional bilingualism and positive discrimination in favor of the Malay majority. Because of the association of English with colonialism and the fact that the urban Chinese, Indians and Malays who benefit most from English medium education, the Malay elite has always sought to encourage a strong sense of national identity by promoting Bahasa Malaysia as the joint national language. English is a compulsory second language in all the schools. Indonesia education and language policy has been one of the transitional bilingualism, with the first 3 years of schooling being delivered in the mother tongue, where possible, before transferring to the national language Bahasa Indonesia. After the independence of Indonesia, English was chosen as a compulsory foreign language subject and has been widely taught in secondary schools and universities. So, based on the policies, we can be said that English is a compulsory subject in all three of the countries. As for the differences, in Singapore, English is the first language, in Malaysia it is the second language, and at last in Indonesia it serves as the foreign language, which explains that English is an important subject in every country. So, these are the things I have gathered today. Finally, I would like to thank everyone. And I hope this information give you some knowledge. So that's all. Thank you.
Good afternoon to Miss Afina and my fellow friends. My name is Jana and I am going to talk briefly on the importance of language. In the country that we have chosen is Singapore, and we're going to compare and contrast it with Malaysia and Indonesia. The importance of language in the community mustn't be underestimated yet. Why do I say so? This is because the importance of education in everyday life has been acknowledged that the government has to give full attention to the language problem that is happening around their country. Why is language important? Well, it is because it's a key to help someone in expressing deepest emotions and feelings into the personal thoughts with others. But for Singapore, we have an English-based education system because the students are all taught that English as their medium communication and also as their mother tongue. But for the Chinese students, they'll be taught Mandarin. The Indian students will be taught Tamil, and the Malay students will be taught in Bahasa Malaysia. This is only as their second language for them. Not forgetting that the importance of language in English has been widely used in both Brunei, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, and Thailand for many years. English was as important for Singapore because they will be able to interact with each other from their business, diplomacy, technology, where everyone will be able to bond with each other with their different entire groups by communicating. But when the importance of language in Singapore is compared with the other country, that is Malaysia, Indonesia, they are totally different because they are bilingual to the extent the language taught in school. Okay, and Malaysia does not share the same perspective as Singapore because Bahasa Malaysia has been used as the medium of instruction in schools for many years, and the subjects were taught in BM, and actually gives a very bad impact to the students' both academic performance in a way where they were not able to compete in English but in other subjects as well. But in Indonesia, they've been delivered in the mother tongue where they only learned in that. So these are the compare and contrast that I've done on both Malaysia and Indonesia for Singapore. Thank you.
Boom! You're looking for this? Hey everyone, my name is Amit Raj, and today I'll be talking to you about the language diversity of Singapore and comparing it with Malaysia and Indonesia. Let's do this. Guys, can you put in my name? I mean, I'm done explaining about the introduction. Come on, don't waste time. Come on, just put the damn thing. Okay, now let's understand the main thing about Singapore. The national language is Malay, which plays a symbolic role. And the other three commonly used languages in Singapore are English, Tamil, and Chinese, which we all know, of course. Now let me keep this short and simple, right? Almost all Singaporeans are bilingual since Singapore's bilingual education policy promotes a dual language learning system. Learning English has been compulsory in primary schools since 1966. English is used as the main medium of instructions, which is why Singapore is currently one of the most proficient English-speaking countries in Asia. Right, okay, enough of the drama. I mean, I don't even know where the tissue came from. Anyways, in December 2009, 60% of Chinese and Indians and 35% of Malay pupils spoke predominant English at home. Now, English is taught as the first language. I repeat, the first language in government schools. Okay, students in both primary and secondary will also learn a second language, which is called their mother tongue. Okay, by the Ministry of Education, where they are actually taught Mandarin, Malay, or Tamil. Okay, so this is because of Singapore's bilingual policy of teaching, viewed this as a cultural ballast safeguard. Oh, God. Ballast to safeguard Asian cultures' identities. Alright. Now moving on to Malaysia. Okay, in Malaysia, the tension has been tangible in language in education policy because political positions on what language ought to be used as a medium of instructions, because it has flipped between Bahasa Malaysia to English to Bahasa Malaysia again. I mean, like, just choose one. I mean, it's already hard enough. Think of the children, you know? Where is this coming from? Anyways, okay, so traditionalists argue that Bahasa Malaysia is the country's official language, and the language of the ethnic Malay majority, so it must be the medium of instruction. So English became the second language. Okay. In Malaysia anyways, and majority of the subjects are taught in Bahasa Malaysia, where only some schools will teach in bilingual. Now Indonesia, on the other hand, is teaching Bahasa Indonesia as it is the natural curriculum that every general school in Indonesia must follow. And it doesn't matter whether the school is a state school or a private school, that is the rule to adhere. So English is then introduced in primary schools, along with the local language where the school is located. For example, if you live in Java, which is a place in Indonesia, I believe, then you'll be learning Javanese. Yeah, okay. It's a new language for me too. I've never heard of it before. Now in high schools, pupils will have an added foreign language besides English. It's either Mandarin, French, German, or Japanese. And this is happening not only for international schools but state schools as well. So sorry for them anyways, right? Now religion specific schools like Islamic schools introduce Arabic from an earlier stage, like in primary school level. And so to be really specific to you, Indonesia teaches Indonesian, English, and a regional language. Boom! That's all from me, folks. Thank you for your time. Come on, not again. Come on! Just give it back! You son of a...
Okay, I'm going to share about the complexity in education and language policies in 3 countries. First, bilingual education programs in Singapore, Malaysia and Indonesia are different in many ways. But it's possible to argue that they are all bilingual to the extent that there are clear societal roles for the language taught at school. Okay, secondly, while Singapore has declared bilingual education policy, those are in Malaysia and Indonesia are not explicitly stated as being bilingual. It is the purpose of the chapter to describe the different strategies and structures that allow students in formal education system in Singapore, Malaysia and Indonesia to develop each case a competence in 2 or more languages. Therefore, since university requires students to be able to function in English language learning environment and learning materials are mostly in English, especially science and technology, thus some suffer that this disadvantage they do not master the language. When the government imposes the language policy of school, universities and education system to the country without attending to the needs those impacts of the policy, it is going to cause little impact to the language learning as the students and the community fail to see the cost for the policy. Besides that, the government has to understand one complexity of the crafting and the language policy as it involves a lot of issues to be managed. Okay, at last, the current language and education policies in Indonesia need a major improvement and Malaysia need better policies. By comparison, however, the situation in Indonesia is far worse and extremely limited language policies in the education system.
Hey everyone, my name is Shakuntala and this is all there is to know about the education and the language policy of Singapore compared to the other countries. As to conclude, Singapore has the best education system because the classes are focused on teaching the students and their specific problems and subjects compared to the other countries. From this, we can tell that English is the first language in Singapore, second language in Malaysia, and foreign language in Indonesia. This shows why Singaporeans find it easy to communicate with each other since English is their native language. So that's all from us. Thank you so much. Finally, for God's sake, I don't need to do any weird presentations like this. Bye. Oh, shit.